Hey babies, it's your favorite host, Mr. BMG, back at it again with another episode. Let's get into it. Girlfriends are celebrating its 25th anniversary, and all the cast got together just to reflect on, I guess, what a beautiful journey it was, and also, I guess, where they are in their lives at this present time. And I think it's probably an opportune time for them to release a follow-up, nostalgic final chapter, limited series, or movie that sort of reflects on the character growth, where they are in their lives, if they have gotten the things that they was, looking for. If Joan finally is married, fulfilled in a relationship, and isn't necessarily using her career to distract her from somewhat the emotional lack of fulfillment within the personal relationship aspect. If Maya is still with her baby daddy, how is a kid now? How is a kid turned out? Does he have his own family? And where she's at now? Do you know what I mean? Is she married to a rich white man? Is she still an author? What is she still doing essentially in her life at this point? The girl who used to sort of be in school to avoid the real world, is she still studying on her 5th doctorate, or is she now an independent married woman or an independent single woman who's doing her thing and moving through life? And there's just so many angles and so many things that we maybe just need closure on. But do we really need closure on them, or are we just fine with watching the reruns of Girlfriends over and over again? I think for me, I'm good, because I feel like sometimes when we think that we need a new version of a show that was created a while ago or was done a while ago, sometimes it ruins it. Sometimes let's just enjoy and, entertain our own conclusions on the chapters of these ladies and keep that as a fond, distant memory, but also engage with the old content as it was. So what a great, I guess, time it is for them to reflect on such a beautiful journey. But also I think for me it's nostalgic because I grew up watching Girlfriends, and it was a staple Friday night show for me. If it wasn't 7:30, it was 8:30, just after Generations, just before Live. And obviously Live was your girl B on the ones and twos. Well, okay, it was your girl B hosting, and being the hostess the mostest. But for me, just that the peak times of, if you knew, you knew. SABC One was that girl back in the 2000s, to be honest, when you had Generations, the actual Generations, which was peak talent, and everyone was just basically the most iconically casted person to deliver the role and delivered it as best they could. And obviously Girlfriends was also just the perfect little thing, comedy show just before Live, and then, you know what I mean? It was just a moment, it was a thing, it was a time. So yeah, it's nostalgic for me. I still watch the show to this day over and over again on Netflix. So yeah, congratulations, y'all. And yeah, maybe we would like to see a conclusion of those cliffhangers and see if the ladies are truly fulfilled in everything that they are now. Speaking of Black Ensemble cast, I've been watching Beauty in Black season 2 and actually just finished it, and obviously the writing is absolutely impeccable. Tyler Perry is a great writer, no disputing that. Storyline is juicy, and I do feel like it's more overtly gay this season. It's exploring a lot of gay/DL topics, but in a way that's kind of busting the door on it and outing a lot of these people. The Varney guy, the attorney guy who's sleeping with the child, Horace's child, Charles, is, in some ways, that relationship is exposed, leaving him coming to terms with his sexuality as it relates to the people around him. And we also see Horace's relationship with Angel kind of developing and kind of almost playing out in the open, because Kimmy kind of knows everything about it, why Angel's around, and essentially he's kind of like a male companion that Horace would like to have. And when you watch season 2 episode 4, you will also feel, in some ways, at least for me, I felt like Tyler Perry was kind of telling on himself, because all of the allegations and everything that everyone is speaking about relating to him, right, and even his type, he likes apparently Hispanic boys and light-skinned men, or whatever the case may be. But essentially that relationship between Horace and Angel is somewhat very much, it feels like art imitating life in many ways. It speaks volumes of maybe the position that Tyler Perry finds himself in his personal life with people around him, and how he navigates relationships, and maybe using his money to buy his way into people's lives, allegedly, because all of this is all alleged, because nothing has ever been confirmed. But I do feel like he's either using his art to ride the wave of what everyone is talking about, therefore keeping them interested in his content, even at his own expense, or he's using it to tell on himself in a very creative way, like a musician would write their truth in, a song. So very interesting, very convoluted in some ways, but also there's just this general theme of outing, people just being exposed. And I just think, overall, writing is incredible. The packaging of it, the editing, that's where the problems and the wheels come off. And, that's always a point of improvement that I would always just say, like Tyler Perry. I think people would respect him, his actors more, and his content more if it just had that polish, if it was just delivered in a way that is just refined and reflects the kind of budgets that he actually gets. It's not enough to have such a great script only and such great writing, right? But we want to see the finished product great. We want to see the finished product excellent. We want to see them having more than one take at it, so they don't look as amateurish and delivering their lines, because it just looked like, hey, you did one take, this is what we're going to use. no matter if you look like you were thinking about the line or you were acting the line, because sometimes it looks like, the scenes are being acted out, almost like it's a stage play, as opposed to it being a scripted television show. And maybe that's also to do with his background of creating plays. He's used to one-take wonders, and he's used to creating plays that he's now doing it for television, but that's not necessarily what we want to see. And he's done shows and products that look polished and finished and don't look like one-take wonders, or the editing is kind of shitty. So I do think in some ways, maybe in that regard, he just needs to get out of his way so that, we get to see a different light. We can also just appreciate everything else in the whole package. So overall, Beauty in Black Season 2, very, very interesting, very fascinating. I can't wait to see the next season. And if he is telling on himself through his aunt, I do think that he can have the balls to also speak his truth live and in color in person, so that we are... Because for me, there's just no point in him being closeted or even playing around the issue. And I think if he was open from the get-go, I think all of these allegations and stories would not have had the impact that it's had. Because now it's like there's a story, people are fishing, and when it looks very clear that you're hiding, people will dig more because there's obviously something there. So it's a little bit of self-sabotage, I think, and I think she should just own his narrative, because he is obviously quite a great creative and talented writer. But yeah, that's that on Beauty in Black Season 2, Tyler Perry. One other thing I wanted to mention about the show was, how is it not based in Atlanta? Like, in those transitional scenes where it's like they give you panoramic views and they're moving on from one scene to the next. I've seen the Pencil Building in one of those transitions, but the show's based in Chicago and does give you a Chicago skyline as well in transitional scenes or transitional panoramic views, whatever you want to call them. I don't get how the story's not based in Atlanta, because it gives that energy. Everything about that show screams Atlanta, 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 but it's a show set in Chicago. And I think maybe that's also where the editing kind of comes into play, because it's like, if you deliberately let somebody, or how was it not picked up when you guys were editing this, that the Pencil Building is appearing in a shoot or in a scene in the show, so let's remove it because then it's going to look inconsistent, unless they want people to think that this show is actually an Atlanta show, but it's actually a Chicago show. I think it just creates confusion for the viewer, but it also kind of looks like bad editing, and I think they can just do better in that regard. Because now it's obviously too late for them to actually say the show's based in Atlanta, even though everything about it, the substance, the energy, the setting, the environment, all of those things just scream Georgia, in Atlanta. So it's just kind of like weird. I just thought that was something I needed to point out, and also a point of improvement as on their part, that make it consistent. The story kind of gets lost in that regard if people aren't really sure where it's taking place. So Wendy Williams was out in New York City at New York Fashion Week at LaQuan Smith show, and absolutely looking gorgeous. She was actually kind of wearing that fur, or I guess jacket that's similar to Sierra's jacket in Low. I don't know if that's also LaQuan Smith, but she looked amazing. It's always good to see Wendy out and about and just like absolutely living her life and, being back in that space where people put some respect on her name, because of all of these controversies and this conservatorship. I think people forget how great and established and how iconic this woman is. So it's good to see her in a better place in that regard, and hopefully that she actually fully gets out of this conservatorship. I think in some ways maybe her being seen out and about is a political move on the conservatorship's part, because they want people to think that, hey, this conservatorship is clearly not that bad because she gets to go to Fashion Week, she gets to be with her family. So in some ways I think maybe they're using this to their advantage to still maintain the conservatorship, but make it look like Wendy is free and can do whatever she wants. So yeah, it's a very complicated one, but it's good to see her outside and supporting a black designer. I do love LaQuan Smith. I mean, if you watch the Met Gala special of the Macy's Bitch on the internet, you'll see obviously that I go into town by how, he dressed Halle Berry so well, and he himself looked so good. And yeah, man, LaQuan is the bitch that she thinks that she is, and the designer that she thinks that she is. So good on her. And I guess quite a few celebrities also seen at that, at the same show. I think Lil Kim was there. I don't remember who else was there. Yeah, Lil Kim and some of these other girlies, but basically it was quite a black show and quite a black space, which was great because we want to see black celebrities supporting black fashion designers. And staying with, the whole media chat, Dame Dash was also on The Breakfast Club and speaking, I guess, about his life. Obviously, he, in some ways, mentioned Wendy Williams and was basically kind of alluding to the fact that, hey, Charlamagne, Wendy Williams is your OG, so you should pay some respect to her. And I think Charlamagne, to be honest, has always paid respect to Wendy Williams. I think there's always been this thing that that Charlamagne respects Wendy. Charlamagne, is from Wendy in some ways. He started off on her show, The Wendy Williams Experience, and grew from there. And in some ways, to be honest, Charlamagne is the straight male version of Wendy Williams, because they're both shock jocks, and their interviews are very entertaining, and they do go there with their guests, inappropriate questioning and all of that. Like just, that shock jock thing that Wendy had. So I think he definitely took many pages from the school of Wendy. And I don't think necessarily, if Dame Dash meant that as an insult, I don't think it landed, because I think everyone knows that Charlamagne, supports Wendy. Even in the whole Free Wendy movement, he's definitely been quite vocal about it. And yeah, man, obviously they did drift, I think, from what I remember Wendy saying, or what he said, but I think they did drift because of the husband, and the husband kind of isolated Wendy. But yeah, I think they're good. But also just getting into that Dame Dash interview, it was so dysfunctional, and he's clearly a narcissist, and he's got such a huge ego. I mean, this is all alleged, but I just feel like the proof is in the pudding, guys. If I watch that interview and any random person who even doesn't know nothing about narcissism could come to the same conclusion that this dude is actually toxic as hell, and I don't think can maintain any relationship in their life because they're just so fucking toxic and wouldn't let anyone else speak, but would, you know, go around saying stop interrupting me when nobody was interrupting them, but they were interrupting everybody else. I just think it was so dysfunctional, but in some ways maybe the way it was so dysfunctional got people to watch, so they ended up benefiting in any case. So yeah, that was so toxic. Sometimes I feel like for me the deeper conversation was, he says that he's going to therapy, and I feel like sometimes therapists enable people. Therapists enable narcissists in some ways, because if you're gonna say you go to therapy but you're that toxic, then clearly they're telling you to believe your own bullshit. They're clearly telling you to believe that you are this trophy, and you know you can never do wrong, and everything you know you touch turns into, like, you know, you are the person who makes things happen, and if you're not involved everything will fall apart. Like how he went on and on about, like, hey, I developed this brand, and you know, as soon as I left it didn't work out, and taking credit for things that I feel like was such a reach that I think he had no business in even taking credit for. But in essence, Dame Dash is a toxic pig. He's toxic. He's very, very toxic, and I don't know how anyone can have a relationship with him. I just don't know, because he is almost too far gone for me. He's too far gone a narcissist to have any functional relationship, because he believes his own bullshit, and that's a problem for me. Yes, it was entertaining to watch, but there's a real conversation we need to have about how I feel sorry for the people in his personal life if that's how he moves and that's how he behaves, because he needs a conservatorship, clearly. Like, you can't be a person like that, cannot allow to just be in public or to freely interact with people. He will harm people, not necessarily physically, but I think he just looks very toxic emotionally. You can't, like, oh, it's actually so triggering. He's actually so triggering. But I think also in some ways he wanted that interview to be dysfunctional to promote whatever he's working on, because that was definitely the fastest I've seen The Breakfast Club get 1 million views on an interview. Like, it was so quick. Like, it really did very well because it was entertaining. But the reality of it is there wasn't much substance in the interview because he was so defensive. And I think he wanted to come and almost put Charlemagne and all the other co-hosts in their place and kind of come off as, I'm better than you guys, so I'm not going to be interviewed. I'm going to interview you on your platform. So yeah, it was very distasteful, and I'm over it. Like, Dame Dash, ill. And to think he's so old, friend. Like, to think he's such a grown-ass human being. It's just quite disgusting that he's like that. And also, he was pretty homophobic because he kept on saying Charlemagne is gay, and, you know, because he gossips or whatever the case may be. And even if he is, nobody cares. But he was kind of making it in a way that's shameful, in a way that's kind of like, how dare you, you know? And it's an insult, because obviously, you know how black men think the highest insult you can give to another black man is to call them gay. It's not an insult, sweetheart, you know? So it came off that way, and in some ways it gives DL vibes. Like, you know how these self-hating down low men hate everything gay that they pointed out, but in some ways called themselves out. You know what I mean? That OG that he was parading himself around with. I just think, for me, allegedly looked very much like a DL relationship that they're having. You know, it just looked very much like you are calling somebody out for being something that you maybe allegedly secretly are. So it's just disgusting to me, and he's so childish and petulant, and he really just needs a leash. So Cardi B has just released her album Am I the Drama, and more than anything, the thing that was making the most news was the fact that she announced her pregnancy. And you know, apparently Stefan Diggs, or Stefan, whatever you want to call him, is the baby daddy. It's just, for me, very hood rat. Like, it's very, like, it's disappointing for me, because I'm just like, Cardi, when people start to root for you and they just think, you know, you're just about to get your career back and you're focused now, here you are falling over another dick. And actually, like, you never went to a high school class that told you guys about how easy it is to get pregnant if you don't use protection, and withdrawal is not a method. You need to wear a glove to have some love. And not every fucking relationship, I saw this online as well, but not every fucking relationship needs memorabilia, you know? It's just disgusting to me that her personal life has almost disrespected her career. She has focused so much on how many dicks she can sit on that the credibility of her music career is absolutely nowhere. And for people who say that, you know, she's part of the big three with Nicki, Megan Thee Stallion, no one. Nicki is one of one. Everyone else is playing in the park, in the little elementary school, kindergarten playground, you know, not Nicki. And it's disrespectful for Nicki to even be compared to these artists. In my opinion, Nicki's child is Doja Cat. And for me, is the only other person who takes her career seriously in rap. She's the only other person who takes a career seriously. Everyone else, you're playing games. Everyone else, you're not serious. Everyone else, you don't even have the numbers. You don't have the numbers. Grammys don't mean shit. You don't have the numbers to prove your credibility. You don't have the consistency to prove it. All you do is just sit on a random dick, get pregnant, and call it an achievement. It's just really irritating for me because, like, I was just speaking positively about Cardi B to say that, listen, she's had such a great rollout, marketing run, and entertained us with all of this, you know, how she's been selling her album and coming across as very relatable. But in the same regard, it's like, you sabotaged it by falling pregnant again, and then you announce a tour on top of that. How are people going to buy tour tickets for you if you're pregnant? You know, how are they not going to know that it's going to be not going to be cancelled? You know, it just doesn't make any sense to me. It's a joke. Like, her career is an actual joke. It's an actual joke, and it frustrates me because it's like, I think she has so much potential. She does have some talent. She's so likable. That's her single greatest power, the fact that she's so likable. But I think she misuses that. And yes, the album title is probably the most perfect way to describe her life. It's a mess. And for me, I can't even call her a rapper. Like, when you tell me who's Cardi B, I'll tell you she's an influencer who raps, you know, because she has that influencer energy, but I think she doesn't respect herself enough to be called a rapper, for that to be her moniker, or for that to be her, what people know her as. She's not a rapper. She's an influencer who raps. And that's it. Because she's more known for really the mess in her life than her career. And that's what disappoints me. And everyone's saying, oh, y'all know her album's gone platinum already. It's because she had songs from back in the day that are pushing up those numbers. That's not necessarily reflecting on the quality of all of her, like, the whole album, you know. From the songs that I've heard, other than Imaginary Players, it's not really giving for me. Like, it's okay, but it's no Pink Friday 2, darling. It's not, I'm living for every single track. I can't skip it. I'm listening it from top to bottom. You know, for me, Pink Friday 2 was that girl, you know. Confidently went to her concert because I knew that the body of work, I like more than 5 songs from that album. That's very difficult for me, for any artist to do, you know. So, Cardi, disappointing girl, and it's just irritating. Like, I really want better for you, but I think sometimes you don't want better for yourself. You'd rather be known as, you know, the messy girl with 5 baby daddies and nothing of a rap career. And finally, darling, the best news of probably the week, but Live Nation and Ticketmaster being sued, allegedly, by the Federal Trade Commission for inflating ticket prices. I mean, like, for me, when I saw this story, and I was just like, you know what? They're going after my enemies, and the wait was worth it. Because I feel like I'm personally on strike from Ticketmaster, because I feel like their bullshit ticket prices and how everything sells out within 2 seconds, you know, for me has always been suspicious, but also really frustrating, because it's like a lot of people are priced out of these experiences by these resellers who essentially want to fetch maybe 5 or 6 times the face value of a ticket, you know, on a resale, and expect that to be something that someone else in the market is willing to pay. It's ridiculous. It's extortion. For me, I think it's just taking capitalism too far. You've gone too far, and you've taken it too far for too long. And I'm hoping that this lawsuit actually succeeds, because whatever it is, whether it's alleged or not, like, I don't know, allegedly, we'll say allegedly now, because obviously all of this is allegations. We don't know. We're not in those documents that are mentioned. But if it's all true, I think it's about time, and they definitely do deserve it, because last week I'm sure you heard me speaking about my frustrating experience with Lady Gaga, and even like signing up for pre-sale, you know, and still not being able to get tickets. And when you're about to get a ticket, the system telling you somebody else already got it. Like, it's just the most ridiculous, most frustrating, and they really need to be checked. And I think there needs to be other vendors who sell these tickets and who do better jobs, because the dynamic pricing, inflating of tickets is really just sounds like a scheme that Todd set up. It's really frustrating, and my enemies will crumble before me. By my enemies, I mean Ticketmaster will crumble for the bullshit and extortion that they've been doing to the buying public, you know, with these concert tickets, because I'm not going to another Ticketmaster facilitated experience if I'm going to pay 4 times the face value. Get me right now. I will not. I'm striking from these people. And if everyone else has a good mind, you abstain from buying anything. You'll abstain from buying tickets related to Ticketmaster or anything that Ticketmaster is doing. You will abstain from that bullshit, because they are extorting you. And they're probably extorting you. And if this lawsuit goes without a hitch and actually succeeds, I'd be so happy, because listen, it really is about time. It's about time. You're not getting any more value. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. They're really just playing in our faces, and it's about time somebody checks them, because I'm fucking over it. Fucking over Ticketmaster, fucking over Live Nation, and their absolute abuse and recklessness with capitalism. It's gone too far. It's gone too far. And the Federal Trade Commission definitely needs to check them, and check them from everything that they're worth. And we better all get a cut of all of that bullshit. Of all of that money that they get, we better all get a cut and get refunded for all of that bullshit, because I'm gonna stay on strike until something changes. Like, y'all are not worth it. You guys aren't worth it. No, thank you, darling. No. And these artists, Nicki Minaj said it, right? Nicki Minaj stood up to them. But everyone is always trying to point out Nicki Minaj as public enemy number 1. But that's always the case for truth tellers. Truth tellers are always, Wendy Williams as well was always painted as a villain all the time. For telling the truth and really going there with people and saying things that people don't want to hear. Nicki Minaj does the same thing. So when are we going to listen, people? It's all extortion. It's all extortion, and it's all abuse of capitalism. It's abuse of the free market is what it is. It really is what it is. And none of these celebrities are worth it. I'm not doing it. Never have, never will. Period. Anyway, babies, I hope you've enjoyed this episode of The Messiest Bitch on the Internet. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And also follow us on Instagram at BigManEntertainment_. And I'll see you again on the next one.